All right, let's talk about a legal strategy that can stop a debt collector cold. It's an incredibly powerful tool. And you know what the craziest part is? It's a rule that they wrote, hiding in plain sight, right inside their own contract. So, you get sued by a debt collector. That envelope shows up, and yeah, it's incredibly stressful. It's designed to make you feel like you have no options, like you just have to pay up. But what if their own rulebook, the one they're using against you, actually has a secret that could flip the whole thing on its head? And look, what we're breaking down here isn't some obscure, shady loophole. Nope, this is a clause that the original credit card company put right into the terms and conditions. And the best part? It's a clause you can absolutely use to your advantage. Okay, so what is the secret weapon? It all comes down to something called a private arbitration clause. Now, you've probably heard that word, arbitration, thrown around before, but let's really unpack what it means in this specific situation. Think of it like this. Instead of going to a regular government-run courthouse, private arbitration is like, well, hiring a private judge. Both you and the debt collector present your case to a neutral person, an arbitrator, usually from a company like the American Arbitration Association or JAMS, and whatever they decide is final and binding. It's a whole separate system. See, debt collectors love the public court system. It's their home turf. It's public, it's predictable, and they know the playbook inside and out. But private arbitration, that is a whole different ballgame. It's a private dispute, and here's the really crucial part. It forces everyone to play by the specific rules written in that original contract. Now, here's the ironic twist. The original creditors put this clause in their contracts to protect themselves. They wanted to avoid getting hit with big class action lawsuits. But when an individual consumer, like you, decides to use that very same clause against a debt buyer, oh, the tables turn in a big, big way. You have to understand, these debt collection companies operate like an assembly line. They file thousands of lawsuits, just cranking them out, because they know most people won't respond, and they'll get an easy win. It's all about volume and low cost. But when you force them into private arbitration, man, it's like throwing a giant wrench into the gears of their entire machine. It grinds their whole process to a halt. And the number one reason they hate it? The cost. For them to sue you in regular court is super cheap. But for them to even start a private arbitration, they could be looking at thousands of dollars in fees. We're talking upwards of $5,000 just to get the process going. All of a sudden, suing you for a couple $1,000 just doesn't make any financial sense for them anymore. So what happens? Well, this leads to the most common and, frankly, the best outcome. The debt collector looks at this huge bill for a process they never wanted to be in, and very, very often, they'll just drop the lawsuit completely. They walk away because it's just not worth it for them financially to go through with it. Okay, so the strategy sounds pretty powerful, right? But how does it actually work in practice? Let's get into the nitty-gritty by answering the top 3 questions that always come up. And this is probably the biggest one. You might be thinking, okay, but I already responded to the lawsuit. The case has been going on for months. Have I missed my chance? And that is a totally fair question. Well, here's the good news. In most cases, it is absolutely not too late. Most of these agreements say that either side can make the request at pretty much any time, as long as 2 key things haven't happened. A final judgment hasn't been entered, and the trial itself hasn't actually started. So yeah, even if you're deep into the process, this is probably still an option for you.
All right, next question. What's the actual procedure here? I mean, you can't just call up their lawyer and say, hey, let's do arbitration instead, right? No, there's a formal legal process you have to follow to get the court to order it.
And it's actually not as complicated as it sounds. First, you draft a formal document called a motion to compel private arbitration. Then you file that motion with the court that's handling the lawsuit. You have to make sure you send a copy to the debt collector's attorney. That's called serving them. And then you wait for the judge to rule on it. And this is why your argument is so incredibly strong. Think about it. This is their contract. You're not inventing some new rule. You're just holding up their own piece of paper and asking the court, hey, can you please enforce the terms that they wrote? I mean, how can they argue against their own agreement? It puts them in a really tough spot. Okay, but what about the fine print in the fine print? A lot of these arbitration clauses have an exception carved out for small claims court. So you might be wondering, wait a minute, is that a loophole they can use to get around this? Generally, no, it's not a loophole for them. And here's the reason why. A true small claims court, in many places, is designed for people who don't have lawyers. But debt buyers, they are companies, and they always use lawyers. In most states, the second a lawyer gets involved, the case is no longer considered a true small claims case. That means the exception doesn't apply and you can still push for arbitration. So let's bring this all together. What's the big takeaway from all of this? It's simple, really. The power to completely change the entire dynamic of a lawsuit might just be sitting in the fine print of a document you already have.
And, this is about more than just one debt collection lawsuit. It's really a lesson in understanding the rules of the game. By reading the fine print, you can find the tools you need to hold the other side accountable to the very terms that they created. It's all about shifting that power dynamic back in your favor.
And that leaves you with a final thought, doesn't it? This whole strategy works by using the system's own rules in an unexpected way. It really makes you wonder, what other empowering rules are out there, hiding in plain sight, just waiting for someone to find them and use them?